Any questions from yesterday? Chirag says you didn't get the PDF notes. I thought I had sent it, no? Maybe I didn't paste it. Oh, notes from, I think, 26th. Notes from 26th. It's being posted. Okay. Anything else we need to do before we move ahead? All right. There are no questions. We'll get started with copy controls. Like I said yesterday, this is the last part of the class that deals with the order to cash cycle in general. The framework behind the order to cash cycle. Starting with document types, item categories, and schedule lines. We'll string them up together and see how data is flowing between documents and between line items. Okay? And before we go there, we have to talk a little bit about the possible document flows. Okay? Now, this is a little picture that I use always to make sure that, you guys remember it well. It's a little triangle, okay, with 3 circles. Over here, I call it A. Over here, I call it L. And this is F. A is sales. L is delivery. F is billing. Note, right? Like sales transaction is VA01. Delivery is VL01. Billing is VF01. This is just a German equivalent of sales, delivery, and billing. So that's the terminology that the system uses. And I'll tell you why I'm calling them A, L, and F as opposed to sales, delivery, and billing. Now, from one sales document to another, a flow is possible. Example, quotation is an example of a sales document. Order is an example of a sales document. You can create an order with reference to a quotation. Right? Both are sales documents. So with reference to another sales document, you are able to create a sales document. Right? That's what this little circle indicates. Okay? Now, look at this. From one sales document to a delivery, can we create an order and with reference to order, do a delivery, standard delivery? Yes, you can. So this is an example of a delivery document created with reference to a sales document. Okay. Now, similarly, this with reference to another is possible? No. One delivery document with reference to another is not possible. Okay. And creation of a billing document with reference to the delivery? Yes, of course. With reference to a delivery document, you can create a billing document, right? Or with reference to a return delivery, you can create a credit for returns. So these are all examples of billing documents created with reference to a delivery. Now what about this? We are seeing one example yesterday. Does anybody happen to remember? One billing document with reference to another. Examples are S1, a billing document, and cancel a billing document. Or you can say LR, invoice list. That's also a billing document. These are examples of one billing document created with reference to another. Okay. Now, with reference to a billing document, can you create a sales document? Yes, you can. Examples is, okay, you have an invoice, and with reference to the invoice, you create a credit memo request. Right? This is an example of a sales document created with reference to a billing document. Similarly, the reverse is also possible. With reference to a credit memo request, you can directly create a credit memo like we have seen yesterday. It doesn't have to go through delivery, like order, delivery, billing. Okay? Now, these are the only flows possible. Like I said, delivery to delivery is not possible. And any other arrows, delivery to order is not possible, billing to order is not possible, so on and so forth. Any other arrows are not possible. The only possible flows are the ones that I have defined in this picture. Okay, you will have to remember this picture. Now, these data flows are configured through a different set of transactions. Different meaning varied. For example, the copy controls for sales to sales, example, quotation to order, is configured in VDAA. This is the transaction code. Again, you don't need to remember it. Okay, you don't need to remember this transaction. It's more like a mnemonic. You know, if you want to remember, this is how you remember it. Source, this is the target. This is the source. So similarly, if you take this order to delivery, where would this be? VP is the common first two letters, and then target is what? L. Source is A. So this is the transaction code where you can go and configure the copy controls between sales and delivery. Okay. So similarly, you can find out what are the transactions that you need to use to configure the copy controls between the respective document types. For example, if you look at this, what would this be? VTFF, right? VTFA, VTAF, so on and so forth. So these are the transactions. Again, you don't need to remember these transactions. You can always go to SPRO and then go to the respective section and then figure out, directly click on that menu path and then go to the respective copy control section. You don't need to remember these like I'm telling you right now. Okay, but it's an easy way to remember if you want to quickly go instead of going to SPRO and then searching. Another reason why I asked you to remember these transaction codes is because they are really distributed across SPRO. You really would not know where to find out the copy controls between sales and billing versus billing and sales. Would it be in sales? Would it be in billing? It's a little confusing. Okay, but still you can figure it out one way or the other without remembering the transaction codes. Now that we know the possible flows, let's move on and figure out what's really flowing. What is really flowing? I'll give you a very, very simple example. Okay. Now, let's say you have this car. Okay. And you are moving from Canada to US. Okay, you just went for a vacation to Canada and then you're moving back to the US. Okay, and then you have some luggage in your car. Now when you're when you're closing to the border, when you're reaching the border checkpost in the US, what happens? So you'll be asked for papers, right? You have to show your authorization, so on and so forth. And then you can carry on, you can drive on to the US, right? So consider this like an order. So here you are as an order and here is a delivery. So from an order to a delivery or one sales document to a delivery document, whether that flow is possible or not is equivalent to this check that happens here. It's like a checkpoint. Can it happen? Can it not happen? Well, it looks pretty obvious, you might say. Hey, yeah, you can create a delivery from an order. Sure, but there are situations where it's not possible, right? You are a legitimate citizen, but there could be other folks who are not legitimate. They are not allowed to enter US. For example, if you take a quotation, try to create a delivery with it. You see, this is an example of a sales document, right? This is an example of a delivery document. Ideally, it should be possible, right? You should be able to create a delivery, but it's not really a case. You cannot create a delivery with reference to a quotation. It's not possible. So who is stopping it? When you try to create a delivery from a quotation, what exactly is happening behind the scenes? somebody or something in the routine or somewhere in the system, a check is happening that says, is this a legal flow? Is this allowed? If not, stop it. The users could be doing anything they like, but whether you want to allow that in your business to happen is something that you have to decide. In this case, it's not a valid flow, quotation to delivery. You don't want to deliver a quotation. If you want, you can try it. You can create a quotation, try and deliver that quotation, and tell me what happens. Obviously, it will throw an error. Among all the different possible flows, there should be some place or a set of places where they should be configured and say, hey, you know what, this is possible, this is not. And that checkpoint is like this checkpoint when you cross the border, right? This in the system is called as a copy control requirement. Copy control requirement. Or quite simply, sometimes it's called a requirement routine. Copy control requirement routine, or you can just call it a requirement routine. This requirement routine is a very commonly used way of checking things. It's not just order to delivery. There are many other places where requirement routines are used to evaluate certain things and finally give out a decision saying whether it can be done or not. Okay? Now, we'll go more into it step by step as to what copy controls are. But let me tell you another thing that we need to understand in copy controls. Well, this guy, the border patrol officer, will look at your papers and say, let's say, for example, you are valid, and then he gives you a green flag saying, yeah, you can go. That's just a yes or no. But your car has to carry what luggage is also decided, right? Meaning, just because your officer says yes, doesn't mean the goods carries them across automatically, right? There is a car, and that car needs to carry them across, and there is a set of goods that is carried across. For example, you can't carry marijuana, right? You can't carry illicit stuff. Also, the goods needs to be carried across in a vehicle. There is a system like a car that's carrying the goods across. Similarly, there are a set of routines, quite similar to copy control routines. There are a set of routines called data transfer routines. These routines carry the data across from the order to the delivery or from quotation to order, whatever the source and target documents are. And these data transfer routines are little pieces of code very similar to copy control requirements. They look at all the source document, extract the data, and push the data into the target document. Okay? Now, how the data is extracted, what code is used, is something that you are not too worried about, because it's all written in ABAP. So why are we trying to understand these data transfer routines? Your role as a functional consultant is to plug the corresponding routine at the right place. No doubt, your routine will be written by your technical consultant. But you are responsible to plug the right routine in. We'll see that example in the system in a bit. Okay, with this background, let's go on to SAP and try and understand. Okay, looks like it timed out. Alright, let's start with the copy controls between one sales document and another, which is VPAA. Okay, and we'll take the most familiar example, quotation to order. Still pulling it up for us. Alright, so this is a set of transaction types here. We have a target, we have a source. Both sales document types, because we said VPAA, which means A for sales. So source is A, target is A. So click on position, okay, and then start with the target first. Target is order. Source is QT, and hit enter. There we go. So here is the source and here is the target. Okay, and then click on the magnifying glass. So from the source quotation to the target, what is a copy control requirement? 0, 0, 1. It doesn't look like much, but if you go and click on this button, okay, a little pop-up comes up, and select one, and don't click on the check mark, but rather click on the second button, which is source text or source code. Okay, let me quickly take a picture here so that you have it as reference. So we went to VTAA and we have chosen QT and OR and then clicked on the magnifying glass. Okay. Let me go there as well just to make sure. Okay. So here we go. VPA and we are selected. Quotation to order. Okay. And then clicked on magnifying glass. We got to this point. And we have selected this requirement. We are looking at the requirement now. Then selected 1. If it is 002, you select 2. If it is 301, you select the respective routine. Okay, you select it and then click on this button. This is the source code button. Okay, as soon as you click on that, what happens? Select it and then click on this button, and it will show you the code that's actually doing this requirement checking. Now, don't be afraid, you don't have to understand the code, it's not your job. It's nice if you understand or if you can debug, there are some rules for that as well, but it's not mainstream, no worries about it, you don't have to really understand code. The reason why I'm showing you that part of the code is I want to highlight certain things that happen when an order is being created from a quotation. Okay, I'll only show you the comments written in plain English, and then I'll explain what's really happening during that particular, during executing that particular chunk of code. Okay, I'll not go into the details of the code statement by statement, but I'll only explain things based on the comments in the code. Okay, now let's look at this. Let's go step by step. Okay, first step. Okay, so what is happening here? Look at these guys. H, VBAC, VBAC, VBook. These are called structures. Okay, these are structures that are either filled up by SAP, pre-filled by SAP at that point in time when this code is executed, or they might be empty for you to fill them up as part of your code for subsequent execution. If that sounds like Greek and Latin, no worries, it's not important. Next one, let's look at this guy. Is the reference document complete? Okay, is the reference document complete? What does this mean? Reference document. If in this case, from quotation to order, the reference document is the quotation, right? So what is the reference document? It's a quotation, right? Now let's try and create, let's say, an incomplete quotation, okay, VA21, and see what happens. Okay, you know how to create a quotation, VA21, then M01, 1, okay, and then save it. It says the document is incomplete. Now, I really don't want to edit and complete it, but rather want to save it. Okay, the quotation that's completed here is 20043. Okay, just copying it, and I'm trying to create an order with reference to that quotation. You know how to do it. OR with reference to the quotation, paste your quotation here and say copy. It says the reference is incomplete and cannot be referenced. This is as expected, right? Where is that message coming from? That message that you see there is this message. It says this piece of code is checking whether the document, the source document is complete or not. In this example, we have taken a quotation that is incomplete. So the system is throwing you an error message or a warning, whatever that kind of message is. I know it's an error because it starts with an E. Okay, if it's a regular message, it would start with an M or something like that. So I happen to know that with experience, but you don't have to really remember that. Okay, just to make sure you understand, again, I will take that picture and paste it over there so that you understand the context that we are talking about. Okay. 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 These are called structures, and the reference document is code QT, and the target document is OR, and this message is what is thrown up here. Okay, when we try to create an order with reference to an incomplete quotation. Makes sense, right? And if you see that error message, you should be able to understand that that error message was thrown from the copy control requirement routines. Okay? Now let's move on to the next bit. Was the reference document fully referenced? Is that fully referenced? If that is only partially referenced, then we have a problem. Is the currency the same as the source and target document? Right? Is the currency the same as the source and target document? Now, if you're trying to create an order quotation in euro and then trying to create an order in, let's say, USD, then it's a problem. Check the validity period of the reference document. Example quotation, and the quotation has a validity period. Then if you are trying to create an order, okay, let me again put some piece of code here and try and explain what's happening there. Okay, don't worry too much about the code. This is something that I don't understand either. This is something you don't need to understand. You don't. Okay? The reason why I'm going through these comments and trying to explain that is because, it gives you a sense of what's really happening behind the scenes. Okay? So you know where to look at. Maybe if there is a problem, you would be easily able to speak to your ABAP consultant and find out, hey, you know what, these are some places where you might be having a problem. So please go check them out. Okay? In this case, check the validity period of the reference document. What would this be? For example, if the reference document is, let's say, inquiry or quotation, and if the date, the validity period is out of range, or there is a validity period, the document is complete, let's say from March to April is the validity period. So the document is complete, but it is out of the validity range, right? So there should be a check where it checks the validity from, validity to, and then compares it against the current date. And if the validity period falls outside of the current date, meaning in the past, then the document has expired. So those prices are no longer valid, and that quotation is no longer valid. Right? So the validity period of the reference document is checked. So if the reference document is an inquiry or a quotation falling or that has expired, then do not allow to create subsequent documents like an OR. Right? So then if you go on and on and on, there will be a whole bunch of things like payment cards, is the reference sales document distribution channel and division the same, are the target and reference customer the same, right? There are so many different checks that you can put in place. Now, what if you want to do your own checks? This is something that's provided by standard SAP. What if you want to do your own checks? You want to introduce additional checks. Let's take a very simple example, okay? Custom routines. Let's say there is a quotation, and in the quotation, in additional data B, you have introduced a new set of fields. Say, ZZ, what field should we take? ZZ installation date, which is a new kind of date, right? We have never seen that kind of date, installation date. It's a date that we have created as part of the requirements. Okay? They said that we need this new date where we need to be able to monitor that date in the order, and you said sure, we can provide the field, additional data. And let's take another date, CZ, installation date, and installation toolkit. These are the two additional fields that you have captured as part of your business requirements. Standard SAP doesn't know this thing, meaning you're creating them for the purpose of your brand new business. Now when you're trying to create an order, your standard requirements 001, 002 would not understand any of these fields, right? But these fields need to be transferred over to OR as well. So it's your duty to figure out how these fields need to be transferred. What do you do in this case? So between quotation and OR, let's say ZQT, ZOR, first you have to go to VTAA and figure out what is the copy control routine or data transfer routine that's transferring this data. By the way, we didn't talk about data transfer routines. Or rather, let's talk about this field. If this is the condition, if installation date not in range, meaning you have promised an installation date of something, let's say, May 20th. If that is out of range, then do not create order with reference to quotation. Just like the way the system standard system is checking the quotation validity dates, we have an additional check here. If the installation date is beyond the scope, then that quotation is no longer valid. That means the business scenario being, hey, we promised an installation date of May 21st. And if you come below May 21st or below May, whatever date, then we'll be able to fulfill that quotation. But in this case, we are trying to create an order with reference to a quotation, and that quotation's installation date is in the past. Now, if you try to create an order, we are trying to fulfill a quotation date or for an installation that's in the past, you don't know what will happen, it's not a valid scenario. So you really do not want that order to be created. That doesn't mean we are losing the order. We'll talk to the customer again, figure out a new installation date, create a new quotation, and then start doing the order. No problem. But technically, we don't want to create the order with reference to this quotation which has an expired installation date. So the standard system does not check that, right? Because installation date is a new field. So what do we do? Okay, here are the steps. Step number 1. Identify the copy control requirement routine between quotation and order with source document type and target document type. I am saying QTOR because it's very easy for you to understand, but in reality it will be something like ZZQ1 and then as a source and then ZOR2 as a target. Right? It will always be Z's and Y's, remember? It will never be QT and OR. So identify the copy control routine. How do you identify the copy control routine? Go to VTA, then click on the magnifying glass and then find out requirement routine. Let's say it is 001. Okay. Step number 2. That's a standard requirement routine, 001. Okay. By the way, let me put that here. From 001 to 600, SAP standard routines. From 601 to 999 is custom routines. Meaning, from 601 to 699, you can create your own routines. Just like the way that your order types starting with A, B, C, E, F, G, H until X is SAP standard. You are not supposed to touch them. Just view them, use them if required. But 601 to 699 is custom space. You can create as many as you like between that space. Okay? So step number 2 is after you have found out the routine, okay, figure out if the routine is standard or custom. Okay? If it is standard, it will be between 001 and 600. If it is custom, it will be between 601 and 999. So why these two differences? If it is standard, you cannot change it, right? Copy the routine and create a new routine. If it is custom, it is possible to modify the same routine. Let's say 699. You can just modify that routine. So where do you go and modify or create new routines? So that is step number 3. Okay. Modify new routines. Where do you go for that? The transaction is very important transaction. That's why these routines are also called VOFM routines. Okay? They are also called VOFM routines. For the simple reason that VOFM is a transaction code that's used to create or modify these routines. They are configured, meaning they are plugged into the flow using these VTAA, VTFL configuration. But where are these routines created? They are created in VOFM. Okay? So this is a very simple transaction code to look at. See, all you see is copy control requirements and orders. Let's say we are talking order level copy control requirements. You go there and let me copy and paste it here and talk about it a bit. Okay. So you go to that step and look at the requirements there. See, 1, 2, 3, 21, 301, so on and so forth. These are the copy control requirements between two sales documents. So now let me also log on to the other part parallelly where we look at the copy control requirements between two different sales documents. Come on. Oh, okay. There are just too many windows. Okay. Now we're talking about order and source is QT, right? Go there, click on the magnifying glass, and then you'll see that 001. And does it make sense now? You see, these are the copy control requirements, and this is the VOFM screen. Let me put this screenshot here. Look at this. See, this is VOFM. This is VTA. So from quotation to the order, the copying control requirement is 001. So what is 001? 001 is defined here and until 502. Now if you want to create your own routine here, you go and define that routine here. Once you define it there, you will get here in the pop-up in VTA. Okay? Now how to define it is a different story. Like if you want to say 601 and then give a description and hit enter, it will ask you for a key and all that stuff which we don't have, which is all about. You don't need to worry about it at all. It's not our job. Okay? So they will create that routine, but you can go and look at existing routines, like what they are, what they do, and all that. What the above consultant does is he'll take a copy of 21 or whatever 01, 21, 301, whatever routine is the nearest source, he'll copy it and create a new number starting with 601, 602, 631, whatever number he likes in the 601 through 999 range. Now this is not just about copy control requirements. There is another class of routines called data transfer routines. We have seen about copy control routines, copy control requirement routines, which are more or less like yes or no kind of routines. It does a bunch of checks and then finally say yes or no. Okay? And an interesting part I would like to tell you about this yes or no thing is so copy control requirement routines, right? They'll have a bunch of checks. Okay? And then there are only two possibilities in general. They can throw errors. Okay? They can throw errors, custom errors, like the one that we have seen. Hey, the document is not in range. The document's validity date is out of range. The document is incomplete, so on and so forth. They can throw errors like that, which will stop the entire show, meaning which will stop the creation of an order. Okay. Another possibility is there is a return code called SAP sub-RC. Any value that is not equal to 0 is a failure. Meaning it should not happen. Meaning if the copy control routine requires any value other than 0, then that copy should not happen. Meaning the order should not be created with reference to that quotation. If it is equal to 0, then it's a success. Again, remember that little thing, psi sub RC. Psi is a structure, sub RC is a field. And that psi sub RC is something that's very commonly used in the industry. What is the psi sub RC value? It's 0. 0 means success. Not 0 means failure. Okay? It's not just using copy control requirements, and we are going to see some more examples in pricing where psi sub RC is used to evaluate certain pricing conditions. But that's a topic for later. If you don't understand the psi sub RC part, that's fine for now. Don't worry too much. Data transfer routines. The next part in copy controls is the data transfer routines. What are data transfer routines? The copy control requirement routine just says yes or no. Alright? It does a bunch of controls and checks and finally says yes you can do it, no you cannot do it. Or maybe throw some errors which is as good as saying no. But once it says yes, hey you're good to go, then who does the data transfer between the source and target? Because an example of this is you create a quotation and you create an order with reference to it. All the data is copied over, right? Probably we can see that example. VA21, right? QT 1000 10 00, right? 1000. Let's create a clean quotation with all the data that is required there. For example, the quotation start date, the quotation end date, so on and so forth, and save it. What is the quotation number here? 20044. So let's try to create an order with reference to that quotation. Click on that and click on copy. No, OR, right? I think VA01, not VA21. VA21 OR with reference to that quotation. Click on copy. Okay, and then whatever PO number, click save. Okay, now let's go to the document in display mode, let's say, and let's capture a quick screenshot. Okay, paste it here. And let's go to the corresponding quotation. And again, let's capture a quick screenshot here. And let's paste that quotation here. Oops. Now you'll see what's really happening here. Okay. So I have used a quotation of a customer of 1000 here. It was copied over, right? I have used M01 here. That was copied over. The line item was copied over, right? The payment terms was copied over. The sales area was copied over, of course, right? Incoterms was copied over. Currency was copied over, right? Pricing date would have been copied over. right? The ship to party is copied over, sold to party is copied over, the pricing is copied over. Somebody has to copy it over, it doesn't come by default. And that code that copies over all this stuff from the source to the target is called the data transfer routines. Data transfer routines. Now let's go into the copy controls and see where the data transfer routines are. These are the data transfer routines. So between a quotation and an order, these are the data transfer routines. Now, data transfer happens at header level, as general data, business data, partner data. It's divided into a bunch of sections. Like 51 is general data. Okay, and then business data, partner data, so on and so forth. Why is it divided into so many sections? Because there is a ton of data to be copied over, and it makes logical sense to kind of segregate it into different sections. So this is business data, general data, and then we have business data, and then we have partner data. Partner data in itself is so huge that it requires its own set of data transfer routines. And again, where are these configured? VOFM. Okay, these are also configured in VOFM. If you want to quickly see where they are, here they are. Okay. Right. These are the data transfer routines. This is where the data transfer routines are configured. And data transfer routines contain source and target structures. From the source structures, target structures will be filled up using a bunch of ABAP code. What is all that code? We don't care. We don't care what that code is and what really happens there. It's not our prerogative. Okay, but when that routine is created, you should know where to plug that in. The plugin will be created, the routine, if you think of that routine as a plugin, the plugin will be created by your ABAP consultant. Your role is to use that plugin in the right place, meaning use that routine in the right place. Should it be configured between Qt and OR, or OR and LF, or where is it? At the header level, at the right line item level, at the schedule line level. That's your job. Your job is to identify what data needs to be copied over, and your ABAP consultant will create the right plugin for you or the routine for you. And you need to plug that routine in at the right place in order to effect the data transfer. Okay, so in order for you to do that, you have to understand the concept of flow, the data flow, and the requirement routines. When you understand them in the true sense, then you'll be able to understand what a data transfer routine is, what copy controls are, and why they are used, how to plug them in, how to get them created, what inputs to give to your ABAP consultant, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, your copy control data transfer routines and copy control requirements, both of them are different, or rather, both of them have their own versions at the header level, at the line item level, at the schedule line level. Okay, at the header level, at the line item level, at schedule line level. So I'll just show it here. So from Qt to OR to, let's say, LF to, let's say, F2. Okay, this is header. This is line. This is schedule. So from the quotation to an order, Of course, there is nothing here, right? We are not creating anything prior to it. So from a quotation to an order, at the header level, there is a copy control requirement routine, there is a data transfer routine. Same outline item, same as schedule line. Now, for OR to LF, okay, or rather, let me put it here because it is between quotation and OR, right? Now, what about here? Is there a header level copy control requirements and data transfer routines between order and LF? Yes. Is there a line item level data transfer routines and copy control requirements between OR and LF? Yes. Is there a copy control requirement and data transfer routines between order and LF at schedule line level? No. Why? Because there are no schedule lines in a delivery. There are only schedule lines at an order level. Right? There are only schedule lines at an order level. There are no schedule lines at a delivery level. Right? And here we have header level, line item level. Okay? And that's what will be reflected if you go to the corresponding BTLA, BTFS. So probably I can take some screenshots here and then so between quotation and OR, right? So if you see this picture between quotation and OR, oops, sorry. Between quotation and OR, there is header level, line item level, schedule line level. But let's take order to LF. Okay. Which is, what is the transaction? VT, L is the target, A is the source. VT, LA. So from order to delivery, we are trying to see what are the levels of copy control and data transfer routines that are allowed. Meaning, is it allowed at the header level? Is it allowed at the line item level? Is it allowed at the schedule line level? It's coming up, it's taking a second. Okay, here we go. What is the target? L11. What is the source? OR. So between OR and LF, do you see schedule lines here? I don't. Right? Because there are no schedule lines in a delivery document type. So there is no schedule line here. And that's what I mentioned when I put that cross mark over there. There are no schedule line level copy control requirements or data transfer routines when you are configuring copy controls between order and delivery, or sales document type and delivery document type. Alright? So this is copy controls here. I think if you understand these different copy control requirements, that's good enough. These are the basics. Now, I'll take like 10 or 15 minutes and I'll explain some of the additional scenarios or concepts here in copy controls. Okay? And then we'll be finishing it. Now, let's talk about BPAA, order level copy control requirements. And apart from copy control requirements and data transfer routines, there are a couple of additional options, okay, that we will have to understand. Now, these are secondary, okay, these are not very, very important. So, as long as you understand copy control routines and data transfer routines thoroughly well, Consider yourself that you have understood copy controls almost 80%. Okay, you understood the basics. Now these are additional things that will be useful for you in your project. And if you want, you can try and understand. But if you don't understand, you can just leave it. No worries. Okay. So from order to QT, let's look at some header level controls and see what are these additional flags here. So additional controls. Copy item number. Copy item number. Okay. So between a quotation and an order, copy item number. What does this really do? We'll look at some examples. Let me create a quotation again, okay, with same set of customers, materials, but instead of one material, I'm going to create 2 or 3 different materials, and look at what I'm doing here. I'm putting 10, 15, 20, right? 3 different line items with 10, 15 and 20, and I'm going to save it. Save that quotation, go back and try to create an order with reference to that quotation. With reference to that quotation, enter the quotation number there, click on copy. This is the availability check screen, and here we go. VA22 oops, screen is stuck. Okay, I'll wait for a bit. Are you able to see my screen now? Okay, so let me explain what I've done here while the screen catches up. I've created a quotation, and with reference to the quotation, I've created an order. In the quotation, there is a number in range, right? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 for line items. When creating the line items, I have created additional numbers there like 15, 16, 17, which are more or less like inserting line items in between. Now when I try to create an order, there are 2 options for the system to create line items. It will copy all the line items, yes, but when generating the numbers 10, 20, 30, 40 for the line items, it can choose its own configuration. Where is the configuration for choosing line item numbers at the document level? It's in the document type configuration. Remember, OR has a number range configuration right at the top section, where you have internal number range, external number range, and just to the right of that, we have line item increment. There it will say 10 or 100, and it will go in increments of 10 or 100, whatever has been specified in that option. But in this case, if you look at the screen, I'm not sure if you're able to see it yet, but if you look at the screen, you'll see that the numbers are not determined based on that configuration, but instead they are being determined from the source. That is because you have specified that from a quotation to an order, your item number should be copied as opposed to redetermined. Are you able to see my screen, guys? I just wrote down as opposed to redetermined. Are you able to see it or no? No? Okay. Let me quickly unshare. It's taking quite a lot of time. Okay, are you able to see it now? I'm writing down QT and OR on the screen. Okay. I'll try and move on. If you still have the synchronization issues, then we'll stop and continue tomorrow. Alright? So what I've done here is create a quotation, and then instead of just 10, 20, 30, I've inserted a line item in between called 15, just to show you the fact that when I check this flag on called copy item number between quotation and order copy controls, when trying to create an order, the line item numbers will be copied as they are as opposed to being redetermined. If they were redetermined, they would have been 10, 20, 30 or 100, 200, 300 based on the configuration that's there in OR. OR would have a configuration, right? For number ranges, internal, external, and number range line item increment. But in this case, they were copied over. That is the copy item number part. Now, let me copy this guy, go to the next page, and we'll talk about complete reference. What does this complete reference do? Complete reference, if it is checked on, will say that when creating a quotation an order from a quotation, it should be completely referenced, meaning you cannot partially reference it. What is this partial reference? Let's say the quotation has 10, 20, 30 line items. Now you are trying to create an order with reference to that quotation, and then over here 10, 20, 30 will be copied over, and you always can choose to eliminate any line item you like. It's a valid scenario. But sometimes you might not want to allow it. Example, you are given a quotation for computers and printers will go free along with that computers. Right? So quotation contains 100 computers, 100 printers. While trying to create an order with reference to that quotation, if somebody tries to meddle with the quantity or the line items, it's not a valid scenario, right? Because when you gave the pricing for that quotation, you have given it, your best shot. For 100 computers, you have given the best discount you can. And you said, yeah, you know what, I'm going to give printers for free. And while trying to create an order, if you try to mess with it, if the user tries to mess with it, like say remove printers or change quantities to 50, if the user has requested for it, it's not a valid scenario. Then your discounts are wrong, and your pricing is wrong, and your line items are wrong. It's supposed to go with that set of quantities and line items. And in that case, you check this complete reference on, and the system will ensure that you cannot modify the source documents, line items, or quantities. Okay? Complete reference will ensure that the source document, line item, and quantities are intact in the target document and cannot be modified in the target document. Okay? That is that. And let's move on to the line items. Sorry, line item level controls. So header, we have seen that. Let's move on to line item level controls. At the header, it's the document types, of course. So at the line item, what controls the copies? It's the item category. The item category controls how your copying can be done. Sorry, look at the source level item categories, AGN, and click on the magnifying glass. So this is item level copy controls. Okay, item level copy controls. So what's happening here? Same thing, you see. Data transfer routines, copying requirements, and on top of that, there are a bunch of controls. The first one being item category proposal. This is interesting. So let's say you have a quotation. Okay, in the quotation, you have given 10 PC, item category AGN, and 20 printer, item category AGNN, which is giving something for free. Right? Now, you are trying to create an order with reference to this, and same thing, we have PC will become 10 because the item category in the standard order is 10, and printer will be 10 by default. But in the quotation, we have given this for free by changing it from AGN to AGNN. Don't we need to respect that in an order? If we want to respect that in an order, then if this should be respected in an order, you have to make sure that your item category proposal at the target level needs to be hard-coded to whatever you like based on the source, rather than this is as opposed to a redetermination. If you were redetermined, it would follow its own rules. What rules would it follow? Document type, item category, usage, and higher level item. That is the rules that are followed for item category determination. But if you don't want those rules to be followed, but rather hard-coded to some other item category based on the source item category, then you can use that field. Okay. The next thing is copy schedule lines. What does this do? Copy schedule lines. So again, we have a quotation. In the quotation, 100 quantity of PC. Okay. The schedule line has been set up like this. On May 10th, you deliver 20, and on May 15th, you deliver 8. Now you try to create an order. An order will have its own way of determining schedule lengths. Do we want that to happen? Maybe the quotation was created 10 days ago. That's what we have promised. Now, if the order says, hey, there is no stock, I'm going to push it to May 18th, that's not valid. Right? So if you want the order also to have the same set of schedule lines, so this is 100, right? May 10th, 20, and May 15th, 80. If the same set of schedule lines needs to be copied over, then you check on this copy schedule lines flag. Okay? So there are other fields here like update document flow, pricing type, positive negative quantity, so on and so forth. Re-explore structure figures, which is not very important at this point, so ignore them. Especially pricing type is important, but we are not going to talk about it at this point. It's a little complicated. And until we get to pricing, we'll not be able to understand it. Okay? So I'll stop here for copy controls. I'll not go forward. This is more than enough for copy controls. And especially if you really understand copy control requirements and data transfer routines, that constitutes at about 90% of everything you need to know about copy controls. Beyond that, there are certain fields like, copy schedule lines, update document flow, pricing type, and we have seen, unchangeable line items, item category, determination, hard coding. These are all additional smaller things that enhance the functionality of copy controls, but that's about it. They are not very used or they are not changed a lot. The ones that are used a lot and changed in real time are copying requirements and data transfer routines. Understand them in their truest sense, okay? And you are through with copy controls. Now let me stop here and see if you have any questions.